Kyrgyzstan, who I would like, they're an animation channel that does science stuff, released a video related to what we had discussed with climate change responsibility. The last conversation we had was about how people often, say, they're critical of recommendations to turn off your lights, eat less meat, do whatever the thing that, not air travel as much, or if you do, don't fly first class so you're taking up too much space. Because corporations, if you look at who emits the most gases, are driving it. Like ExxonMobil is responsible for a lot of it, and it's a lot of the beef industries as well. And we point out that that's forgetting the demand side. ExxonMobil is making gasoline for people to use.
Every time you eat a hamburger, you contribute to the gas emissions of the cow industry.
Yes. And it's, a corporation is impacts and is the size of hundreds of thousands of millions of people, an individual's size of one. So saying that hundreds of thousands or millions are bigger than one is kind of a silly comparison. It's like, don't take responsibility. Like the planet Earth is contributing more than you are. So it's not, or, if the species of cow is contributing more than you yourself, it's just not a fair comparison. But they made a video sort of addressing that in more detail, which I thought was interesting.
That's cool. What's it called?
It's their most recent one. It just came out like a day or so ago, so I don't know. But the thumbnail that got me was something related to personal responsibilities. Like, is it your fault that climate change is happening? And the thumbnail was like, it's not. So I was like, oh, I got to click this. But
then the punchline is it kind of is?
No, the punchline is that it's not. And I think they raise an interesting point, which they don't come out and say directly, but the thesis at the end of it is, what can the individual do? It's basically vote for structural change that will affect the meat industry and raise the price of things and do all of this. And so what they don't say is vote for the changes that you won't implement on your own, which I actually think is true and right. It says take one day a year where you're feeling especially moral and are oblivious to the consequences and don't understand them, and commit yourself via a politician who is going to make the meat that you purchase more expensive, the air travel that you fly more expensive. What I mean?
The gasoline
more expensive. The gasoline that you want to drive more expensive which will reduce your consumption.
That's why California gas is so high priced. Everybody's baffled that the gasoline's so high here, but it's because there's an additional tax that's trying to push people to electric cars. So everybody votes for the politician that they know is going to put that in place, and then hates that the gas prices are high.
And this video does earlier point out other things that it's not just driving, it's the asphalt on the roads, it's the thing. But none of it addresses the fact that, look, if you just decide that you're going to live off grid and not use a lot of the things that other people get so used to, you can dramatically reduce your carbon footprint, such that if more people went that way, it would have an impact. But what they say is, instead of having necessarily the willpower to continue to do that and the unenforceability of other people not matching you, vote for politicians who will force you to behave in a way which you will not do on your own and force other people, which I think...
Why not do both?
Well, I think...
Like, you could do that. You could say, listen, I'm going to eat every factory farmed animal that there is, and I'm going to donate to lobbyists who outlaw factory farming. But instead, you decide to not consume the meat.
Yes. Well, I think this is from an effectiveness standpoint. So if all you care about is...
So just to clarify, it's not a prescription for an individual to...
be more moral.
Not care about what they do and then only care once a year when they vote.
This is going... If I can get all of the people to do one small thing, which one small thing is going to move the needle?
Got it. I guess it's kind of like saying, if you really, really care about this issue, spend your time trying to get governmental change rather than trying to convince individuals to change.
Yes.
So like Greta, if you're trying to solve global warming, don't worry about persuading the masses, worry about persuading government officials. Or worry about getting the right government officials in office.
Correct.
Okay. So it's not to say that people should just be completely ignorant to the impact of their actions.
It stayed rather agnostic on that. And in fact, I think had the effect of saying, don't worry about that because that's small beans compared to, which I thought was a really unfair comparison, which is your climate footprint is so small compared to ExxonMobil, so don't even sweat it, that's just not a fair, that's the point that I just made. That's millions of people versus a single individual.
You can make that argument about anything. Listen, you not owning slaves on your plantation is not going to
change,
make slavery illegal. So just own the slaves and beat the slaves, but get government change. It's like, well, maybe don't have slaves, but also go for government change.
Yeah, well, it seems obvious that if you're aiming for the most moral, and they would probably agree, the thing to do is to, and I actually think it's important and understated, but I've said it before. If you're unwilling to go through the experience of personal transformation and experiencing what that sacrifice feels like, you're unlikely to make long-term systemic changes that are effective because you don't understand the challenges involved in getting from totally comfortable doing whatever I want to less comfortable living a more thoughtful life.
It's cliche, but it's Gandhi's most famous quote, right? Be the change you want to see in the world.
And you can still aim at systemic things. And I was moved by that last piece, because when I think of how do I implement personal change, it's not by setting up the willpower to like go to the gym every single day, or it's by trying to make one sort of decision that commits me forward. So what we've often done in the past is I'll say, when I'm, say that it was a gym thing back in the day and I was feeling like I needed to put on muscle or something, I would contact you and say, hey man, I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a week. I'm going to do German volume training. And for every day that I don't do that, I'm going to send you $50 via Venmo. And so I would make one decision that forced me, that kept me on the hook financially for the rest of the time, rather than just going, every day I'm going to see how I'm feeling and try to do my best, because that was harder for me to stick with. So I see how that, if you can only get people, having watched a video, to make one motion, it's probably to vote in a certain direction or sign a petition or something like that. But it's also a bummer to think that that's the civic involvement and the global awareness we can expect from the population, even though it's, I think, a totally practical and correct assessment of people at large. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes sense. I also just Googled this because as soon as I said it, I said this was just so pithy and it's said 1,000 times. It's probably not even true. It's not actually what Gandhi said. Apparently what Gandhi said, which was summarized into that, was
it's not what Gandhi said.
All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. We but mirror the world. Mm-hmm. And then they summarized it to that. And as I said it, I went, this quote's really good and I've heard it 1,000 times. I should probably see if this actually came from Gandhi or if I've just heard it's from Gandhi.
Yeah.
So there you go. Check your sources.
Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.